who here has used the library databases to find articles? Okay, a good number. Okay, but not everyone. So let me just show you really quickly kind of my I would call tips and tricks, or what I do. Actually, I'm going to transition to this PC. So what we have is, through the City Colleges of Chicago, if you go to Student Tools, Libraries, it pulls up a site that has links to all the libraries. Which libraries, my understanding is they're actually interconnected, so it doesn't necessarily matter probably which one you select, I'm not sure. But what you are looking for are databases. And so, I can zoom in here. So anything that says databases, for example, library databases, and it looks like there's a little information dot, so that can stand out to you as well. So if you click databases, the featured database is going to be Academic Search Complete. And again, this is your alternative to Google. That's why I'm showing you this. So you can use this and not Google. So here, Academic Search Complete, that is the database. It's usually where I start. And you just plug in your keywords that you're searching. So let's say, for example, you are doing a speech about climate change. So climate. Say you also want to talk about the impact of climate on the economy. I think that was one of the speeches that I saw. Or maybe it was hunger. That was probably the speech topic I saw. But hunger and having money to purchase food is related to the economy, so we'll use that keyword. And maybe I want to look at it in a global environment, right? So not necessarily U.S. specific, but maybe around the world. I put in my search parameters and then hit search. Now here's what I want to show you. So here on the left-hand side is the refined results. This is where you can determine essentially how recent it is. So for example, I want something that is probably since 2004. Now let me also point out just a couple things once you do this search. One is you can see how many search results there are. So you see there's 1,824 search results. That's a lot of search results, right? My expectation is not that you are reviewing all of those, right? The goal is to narrow your focus to find something that helps you, specifically the subject that you are presenting on. So I want to narrow that 1,824 to as few as possible. So I'm going to change the publication date and make it something that is, probably 2010 and beyond. So that now reduced it down to 1,463. That's still a lot. So this is where you can also select the source type. So this is going to be, are you wanting to find newspaper articles or magazine articles? Or are you wanting to find academic journals? So those are going to be scholarly publications related to the topic. As you can see, it gives you the number of each. So if I was just looking for newspaper stories, right, journalistic publications, then I would just select probably newspapers, maybe even magazines. But for this, I'm going to show you that I want to specifically look for academic journals. So I'm going to check that box, and it's going to narrow my results down to 1,154. Still a lot. So I'm going to go in here and further refine my results. So let's look at geography. So this is telling me that in this 1,000 search results, that there are articles relating to China, India, US, Poland, Ukraine, and Europe. If I'm just wanting to look at a specific country, then I could select that. I'm just going to select one, so we'll select US. And so that will narrow my search results. Geography. Give it a moment to think. Yep, updating. There we go. So then that now reduces my search results down to 30. Now that's a lot more manageable, right? That's a shorter list to review. But again, You could even shorten it down to language. Well, looks like for this one in particular, there's only one language. You could look for subject. So here it's giving you kind of, the algorithm is showing you a variety of subjects. So government, environmental conditions, maybe that seems to be a little maybe related to what I'm looking for. And there's only one. So there we go, spatial, I have no idea what that word is. But that is an academic journal article that might be relevant to my topic. So again, that's how you kind of narrow down and find a specific scholarly. And again, what we're looking for are full text. I could also, let me remove this publication. So let me remove the subject. You can also check this box here that says peer reviewed. So that's going to be similar to what I talked about last time. That's going to be someone who has submitted to a panel who has reviewed it, and then they have provided feedback and guidance for improvements, and then those improvements were made and then submitted. So, so that peer review is considered the most credible of all sources. So, so it's helpful that specifically, again, through here, you can narrow those search results down to peer reviewed. And here you see actually all academic journal articles that it's given me are also peer reviewed. Full text, what that means is there's a full text available to read. For the purposes of this course, again, you're not necessarily having to read journal articles. You can read abstracts. You could go into a particular article and get the gist of the information, right, before you even have to download anything. So when I click the name of this particular article, Regional Initiative, Scaling the Climate Response and Responding to Conceptions of Scale, it gives me an abstract. That's going to be the key points of the article. So, so I could just use that, or again, I could download the PDF and find a quote from the actual article. So that's my little spiel on that. Any questions about using the database search function? I know there's Google Scholar as well. It doesn't give you everything, so but it's a good resource. I use it as well. Yeah.
JSTOR is kind of similar database. That's really good. It works like that too.
Yep, JSTOR, which you can access through here as well. Yep, that's one of the. If you go to you'll see there's a variety of databases. Some databases include multiple publishers. Some are limited in the publishers that they include. So if we go to library databases, actually, if you go to the research guides, you can search by subject and find research guides that might help. But yeah, so there's a variety of them, right, that are subject specific. So that might be a place to start, is finding a specific database related to your subject. Here we have the Chicago Tribune, from old Chicago Tribune stories as well as current Chicago Tribune stories. Chronicle of Higher Education is considered the expert when it comes to higher education information. And you can search specifically their publications. So, but again, Academic Search Complete is featured because it's the simplest if you are trying to search a variety of databases. Other insight, and then JSTOR. Yeah, JSTOR as well. Any others? Any other thoughts, insights from people who've done this before?
Could use this in high school.
You did it in high school?
Because
Good.
I could have.
Oh, you could have used this in high school, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this is what people, those of us that do academic research, this is what we do. You know, it starts with figuring out the keywords that you need to search and going to a database and searching all the available combinations. I'm in the process of working with my advisor for my doctoral program on doing an independent study over the summer. And part of doing an independent study is we have to essentially create a syllabus of what I'm going to do over the summer. And part of what I'll be including in my syllabus is doing a literature review related to my topics. And in order to do that, I need to identify, a list of keywords that I can then mix and match and put into a database to then find articles related to those things. The more keywords you have, the more narrow your search will be. And again, this is primarily scholarly articles. But again, it also includes newspapers and magazines. So includes all of that. So there you go. If you have any questions as you're diving into this, let me know. One of the things that I like about this as well is if you're needing a citation, once say you go to Academic Search Complete, let me just type in climate change, economy. Oops. We'll start there, econ. So once I'm inside an article, it actually over on the right side has an option to cite right there. So when you click that, you can copy the citation and paste it into your references section. And again, I encourage you to, and you'd want to find specifically APA 7th edition. So this is that reference that you can copy and paste. Again, as you're doing research, I encourage you to just have a document where you're saving these references. Again, you may have more references than you use, but at least you at least can go back and find it, because the reference is like a street address for an article. It gives you specifically where you go and what you need to search in order to find this article. One of the things that I do as well is if I'm looking at a book that has references in the back, I'll go to the references in the back and I'll, with just an author's last name, date, and a keyword from the title, usually can locate the article. And so, or article or content related, or if it's a book, you can find that as well. So, yeah.
How do you properly cite if you saw something on the news?
Yes. Look to APA. Go to, and actually on that note, OWL Purdue. OWL is the online writing lab that's been around since I started school. Mm-hmm. And they have an APA guide.
Okay.
That, again, I know it's a different school, but every school I've been at has referenced OWL Purdue. So even competitors like Northwestern and others. So so that is, I think, because of how they lay it out, right? So reference list for other electronic sources, it gives you an example of that.
Okay.
So OWL Purdue. Good question, yeah. So making sure you know how to cite APA, which is a little bit different. And again, it's based on the type, articles and periodicals. Other questions, thoughts? Yes.
Can you go over how to use the booleans and searching that?
Yeah, I could show. So I would just recommend sticking with keywords. So identifying what your keywords are. You can change it to be and or, right? So again, usually I use and because I'm trying to narrow the search results. But you can also change where it says select a field. You can also go in and say, okay, I want to actually search climate change in titles, or climate change, another applicable one. That's probably the only applicable one. If I knew the author's name, right, I could put their name in there and select author, and that would give me a more narrow, find. You can also do that all within one line. So you can say climate change and economy and global. So you can also do it all in one line. This database has multiple lines, and you can continue to add multiple lines, but you can also do it all in one line if you want, just by capitalizing and or capitalizing or. So does that speak to what you were talking about with those? I feel like every year in the last since I've been in my doctoral program, I've met with the librarian, and there's even more to this. This is just the basic. There's a lot of other Boolean phrases you can use, a lot of other keywords that you can use to get at specific information. But for the purposes of this course, just plugging in those keywords would be sufficient. Yeah?
This is a little off topic, but what is your thesis about for your doctoral program?
I have not decided yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my research is ableism in higher education. So it's my ableism is discrimination based on ability. And a lot of my research over the last few years has been examining the limitations within higher education that are there systemically because higher education was built for the privileged. It was not built for access for everyone, but we are, and I'm of the mindset it should be available and accessible for everyone. So anyway, that's like my area of research. My master's was looking at communication within different contexts. So how we communicate about leadership in the world of business and higher education and in communication studies. So that was my thesis. That was my master's thesis.
I like that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, for my dissertation, I will have to figure that out within the next. Well, I do my candidacy paper first. That's what's due end of this year, which may or may not relate to my dissertation. But so I'll be doing a lot of this research. So as you're going through, if you hit any roadblocks, let me know. I can hop on Zoom. We can chat. We can text. I'm a resource for you as you are going through this process and as you go through this course. So, but I wanted to make sure you all knew kind of the basic. And then Al Purdue, so that's a vital resource that I still use. So, so let's continue. It's 6:20. We'll take a 3-minute break so I can transition and get set up. So it's actually 6:19, so it's 6:22. We'll pick back up. Give you a little bit of a break. We'll pick back up with some presentation and then our drafting exercise. Just send me an email and I can reply.
Last class, you tried to get on. People are moving it.
I didn't realize that you keep that up there. That's really helpful.
I don't know. I haven't done it every time. I try to.
Is the drafting going to be like in class 45?
No.
Okay. I only asked because I do have a piano lesson. I'm a music major, so I have to go down to floor 3, and today she needed me to overlap if possible.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything? Because I can stay a little bit longer if there's
No.
Please just send me an email and I can reply with the link.
Okay, perfect, awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Do you work with parents?
So just to pick up where we left off, we were talking about, so we've learned, actually to kind of review back, right? We've learned that informative speaking, there are a variety of types. There are a variety of methods that we use to inform. And there are different organizational patterns that we use to organize our main points. We've also covered that in this class, your speeches will probably have no more than 2 or 3 main points, just for time's sake, because the first speech is a 3 to 5 minute informative speech. And so we want to make sure we have content, but that we spend kind of an equal amount of time with each main point. We're going to have a series of main points, which are just keywords or phrases, but then underneath those main points are our supporting points or subpoints. And you have already started doing this, so I just want to give some kudos, right? Because you are already doing this whether you realize it or not. I do want to go in and kind of clarify these 3 types of supporting materials and just give a couple examples in regards to this. So let's start with examples. So this is going to be a specific case that you use to illustrate an idea or to illustrate your main point. So our examples that you were using fall into essentially three categories: a brief example, an extended example, or a hypothetical example. So I'll give you kind of a little definition. Again, you're doing this, and this is basic, but we need to have the foundation to build on that. So what is a brief example? So a specific instance that you refer to just kind of in passing. It's short. It's short and sweet. Think of a list. A list would be a brief example. I'll show you an example of a brief example. So listen to how they state their main point, and they give a list, right, of their examples.
Many of us are familiar with prominent Chicanos and Chicanas, such as actress Jessica Alba, boxer Oscar de la Hoya, and guitarist Carlos Santana. But you may be less familiar with other Americans of Mexican origin who have made important contributions to U.S. society. Nancy Lopez played a crucial role in popularizing women's professional golf and won 48 tour championships. Dr. Ellen Ochoa is a former astronaut who logged more than 480 hours in space and invented several optical methods that greatly aid space exploration. Dr. Mario Molina won the 1995 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his research on the formation and decomposition of the ozone layer.
So person, example, person, example, person, example. Very quick. The next is going to be an extended example. You've already started doing this, right? These are the stories, the narratives that you include, that you develop at length. And you can include these, again, as supporting points. You could also include these in your introduction and conclusion, right? First part of your attention step, or part of your review, or part of your memorable closing and your conclusion. So I won't necessarily dive deeper into this because you are already doing this. Let's look at hypothetical examples, though. So this is where you are going to create a fictitious situation and take your audience through that fictitious situation. And there is some benefit to this, right? Because we're able to use some phrases that really help our audience be kind of put in the position or in a position in our story, right? So the audience has a role in our story. Let me show you an example of what I mean.
Imagine you're at the farmer's market. In front of you are ripe, red tomatoes, sweet and juicy and full of flavor. And on your left are bushels of fresh, leafy greens packed with vitamins and minerals. Now, imagine you're at the supermarket. In front of you are dull, mealy tomatoes that have been treated with pesticides. And to your left, there are wilted heads of iceberg lettuce that have little flavor and even less nutrition. These are the choices we face when we go shopping. It's the choice between buying locally grown, organic produce and heavily treated factory produce. It's also a choice of our health. According to the British Journal of Nutrition, organic produce has more vitamins and minerals and fewer pesticides than traditionally grown produce.
So here we have imagine, right? That word. I-M-A-G-I-N-E, is that right? Imagine. Let's spell that one. Right, so imagine if, that's a great phrase to introduce to your audience a hypothetical example, a hypothetical scenario. And she also used a phrase or words that build rapport, right? You, we, us. These are all words you can incorporate to help your audience feel a part of the story. So when it comes to kind of just some tips when you are using examples, you want to use them to clarify ideas, right? And so the idea that you're clarifying is going to be the main point, right? So main point and then supporting points. The goal is that that example illuminates your main point in some way, adds to, clarifies, reinforces your main point in some way. You can also use these examples, these stories, to personalize your idea. So remember, personal stories add ethos, some credibility, could also include some pathos, some emotional appeals. And so to make your stories or examples personal will really help enhance your speech. Make your speech vivid, richly textured, so we'll get more into kind of language use in a little bit. And then make sure you're practicing the delivery of your examples so that they flow. I'll talk a little bit about statistics. So this is going to be when you are going out and finding those numbers, and a few of you have already used statistics, right, percentages to represent what you are at least claiming is being measured. Statistics can be used well, and they can also be misused. It's important to understand, and I won't dive deeply into this, the book does, understand the difference among mean, median, and mode, what those represent, what those mean, and then make sure that you are ensuring source reliability. Is the source that you are referencing a credible source for these statistics? So that is some thoughts there. So then some tips for statistics is going to be using them to quantify ideas. So similar to examples, right? You're giving a main point, and then your statistics, the numbers you include, should illuminate, should support that main point in some way. You don't want all of your supporting points to be statistics. You want to utilize them sparingly, but also make sure you are identifying the sources. Who did that research may be different from the person who published it. So make sure you make note of that. Who did the research, who published it, what are their credentials, and you're going to have to explain it to us, right? Your audience may not necessarily understand what a number represents, so it's helpful to give us some kind of comparison. You always want to round them off. You don't want to do 14.35621%, right? We're always going to round those, make those short, and then you can use your visual aids, specifically graphs and charts, to demonstrate and show your audience creatively those statistics. Let's watch an example of someone doing this where they give us a good example of explaining to us what the numbers mean, giving us something we can kind of compare it to or relate to.
According to the Urban Mobility Report from researchers at Texas A&M University, Americans collectively spend 4.2 billion hours stuck in traffic every year. All told, traffic congestion results in more than $87 billion worth of wasted fuel and lost productivity. Now that number breaks down to about $750 per traveler per year. Clearly, we are wasting far too much time and money on highway gridlock.
The global refugee crisis is now larger than any time since World War II. According to data from the United Nations, every day 28,000 people are forced to leave their homes because of conflict and persecution. In total, there are 22.5 million refugees worldwide. How many people is that? It's more than the population of America's 5 largest cities combined: Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Houston, and Phoenix.
So there you go. So the first speaker was able to break the number down for us, right, to the amount per traveler per year. The second speaker was able to give us a comparison, right? This number is the same size as all of these cities combined. So here, there, again, illuminating is, I love that word, right? Giving light to those statistics. And then the last type of supporting material I would like you to consider using in your speeches are going to be testimonies, which you've just practiced doing, right? Quotations or paraphrases to support that point. I just want to kind of clarify there's 2 types of testimony. The first is peer testimony. So this is from ordinary people with firsthand experience, firsthand insight. So don't shy away from using peer testimony. And that's where I would encourage you to, if you know someone in class or in another class that has an experience related to your topic, interview them, right? Ask them some questions, get that insight, and then share what they share with you in your speech. So there's peer testimony, but then there's also expert testimony, and that's what a lot of you just utilized, right, in your speeches were quotes from experts, right? People who either wrote a story that included some expert voice, or maybe they were a journalist that did some research. Yeah.
Is this the same breakdown and structure that's used in in the courtroom structure? Because I'm seeing testimony and peer testimony, expert testimony, and then even the argument structure that you're using versus when you were going over the imagine this. That's like That's the kind of speech that a lawyer would give if they're trying to appeal to a jury of 12 or something, and then versus statistics or things of that nature. So is this the same teaching that you would apply in a courtroom setting?
It's related, yes, yeah. Because if you think about law, right, and law, I mean, every society has had laws, but specifically our democratic legal system was one that we got from the Greeks, right? The Greek legal system was one the Romans adopted, and that we now, right, as part of our society now. Our legal system, our political system is from that. And so, yeah, I think you're going to see some overlap because they had to know how to speak before a legislature, to speak before judges, and so this training, again, it has its roots in ancient Greece and ancient Rome. So yeah, there's going to be some overlap between law and what we're learning here. In fact, I have a lot of colleagues. I myself also considered law school, but I have a lot of colleagues that went through, did public speaking training and competitions, and then went the legal route, and are attorneys. So it's interesting you identify that connection because it is there. It is related, and we do use the kind of similar language to refer to similar things. Because expert testimony in the legal system is going to be someone who is considered an expert on the subject, and in the courtroom you have to share those credentials of those experts, right? So yes, so very, very similar. Some tips with using testimonies: quote, paraphrase accurately. So this is where on your note cards you will want to make sure if you you don't want to misquote anyone. So if you need to write the full quote on your note cards, feel free to, whatever ensures that you share it accurately, and again, using qualified sources as best we can, unbiased sources, and always identify those sources, right? Who are they? What's their expertise? And if they're a peer, you might not necessarily be sharing their expertise, but you may be sharing that they have experience with something, right? Which is still credible. That's kind of the debate between quantitative and qualitative researchers. Some view the personal experience as having more value, where some view objective experience as having more value. So when you're sharing this information in your speech, again, you can direct quote it like many of you did. So according to, and then you insert word for word, but it is okay to paraphrase, or you restate those ideas in your own words, but you must still cite that source, right? Or else it's plagiarism. So paraphrasing does still need to have a verbal citation and an in-text citation and the reference. Because the idea is not yours, right? The idea is whoever's you are citing, or pulling from. So make sure you still cite those paraphrased thoughts and ideas. Here's an example of someone doing that.
Lead in our drinking water comes primarily from lead pipes that carry water into our homes, offices, schools, and dormitories. It's hard to say exactly how many lead pipes are out there. A 2016 article in the Detroit Free Press explains that most cities didn't track the use of lead pipes historically. However, a recent study by Joseph Barry, an economist at Northwestern University, shows that around 6 million homes receive water through lead pipes. Another 81 million homes receive water through pipes with lead soldering and fixtures, which can leach just as much lead into the water supply as the pipes themselves.
So there you go. Joseph Barry, economist, Northwestern. Here's what he says. So I wanted to kind of round out those thoughts in regards to supporting materials. What you've completed by this last Sunday was making these choices, right, for your topic selection or subject selection. And so what we will do on Thursday, the primary objective Thursday is to take this and expand it, to take it from just these choices that you've made and start that process of preparing a draft. And in order to do that, I want to show you how I go about doing that. I have a few examples to show you of speeches that I'm not necessarily given, but that I've at least prepared for. So let's go to, so just kind of show you So I have these on the learning management system. But what we're going to do on oh, that's because I'm on PC. What I'm going to do on Thursday is I'm going to take us from where you are right now. Why is that? Oh, sorry. There we go. That's. So it's going to take you from where you are right now to there we are. So that's what I was seeing, but you were not seeing. So, and we're just going to use just a variety of subjects to go from the preparation stage to expand it. And we'll do a variety of them. So this is where it's helpful for you to have in mind the subject that you want to talk about for your informative speech. And I will take us through a couple student examples that show how they went from that draft, went from that kind of preparation part to their draft. And I'll point out some things they did well, some things they needed to improve on, because the draft is not the final version. The draft is literally just this. So what are your main points? Do you have any subpoints? Do you have a thought-out introduction, a thought-out conclusion? Because that'll give me an idea of the direction you're going so I can provide you feedback. So I'll provide feedback on drafts so that you can then incorporate that feedback as you move forward and prepare for the final version. And you get points just for submitting a draft. I'm not grading based on a rubric. So, but whatever you submit, if it looks closer to let's see, if it looks closer to something like this. So this is my full sentence outline for my Chicago Places practice speech. So if it looks more like this, that's great. If it's more bullet points and less full sentences, that's great too. Again, just looking to kind of see the direction you're going. This is what your final full sentence version should look like. So this is the end goal. This is what we are looking to achieve for the outline of our informative speech. But it's important to move forward with a draft so that you can start verbalizing it, so you can start rehearsing it, right? As soon as you have a draft, like these students about the fleece blanket and places to visit in Orlando, right? They had a general idea of some main points and supporting points, but they then took this and added to it full sentences. And so, so this is the goal for the end of this week, is to have just some something for me to look at and review and give you some feedback on as we go. So Thursday is essentially going to be us working on this together. Like I said, I'll take us through a few examples of some subjects. I'll ask for you all to, whoever wants to, we can use some of your subjects and practice going through it. But the goal is to help us understand how to take our preparation stage and expand that into a draft in preparation for the end of this course week. I will mention a few things. So again, as we go along, you can change your speech topic at any point in time if you want. Just make sure you look to make sure no one else has that topic posted on Brightspace. And some notes. So we want to, for our informative speech, we want to make sure that we're avoiding being persuasive. We want to reserve persuasion for when we dive into that part of the course. And so make sure, and so you may have to make some adjustments to what you've already been thinking about. But we want to avoid what I refer to as value judgments. We want to avoid those, placing value on something. So how do we place value on something? We say it is good or bad. We want to avoid that. We say it's good or bad. We say it's right or wrong. We say it's moral or immoral. We say something is important versus not important, right? We're making a value judgment. So these are the type of value judgments that are part of persuasive speaking. So we want to avoid that for our informative speaking. So make sure as you're working on your drafts that you are revising any language. So if you're saying I want to share with you the benefits of not smoking, right? That would be a great persuasive speech, but if you wanted to modify it, then you could just say, 3 facts about smoking, right? So we're not leaning persuasive, we're just giving factual information. Same thing with if you're saying the importance of doing something. This is important. You are making a value judgment saying that is important. We want to avoid that, but you can often just rephrase it as, facts of something, history of something. So using those words instead of a value judgment word. Does that make sense? So keep that in mind as we move forward. And then, like I said, on Thursday, we will dive deeper into drafting. And so the info speech drafting, or we could also call it brainstorming activity, will be kind of the majority of our time on Thursday. So come prepared with whatever you have prepared for your preparation stage. To have that in mind, bring whatever you need to work on this in class, because it'll be work time will be the kind of primary goal. I'll take us through a few exercises, and then I'll play music and give you an opportunity to work on things, ask questions. So it'll be a work session as well. So sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. That's all for today. We're going to get done just a few minutes early. If you have any questions for me, I'll be here. Otherwise, I'll see you Thursday.
Right, so you said avoid using value words. How do you feel about the word bill?
About the word what?
Bill.
Bill? Use it in a sentence.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's fine.
But you said value, so it's almost like saying because it's
gotcha.
coming from one source to another.
Value more in as something being good or bad.
But that is good or bad. Well, bill, okay. Because somebody have a good one but want to build it higher.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you could build a poor credit score or build a good credit score. So yeah, so it's that good or bad or poor we want to avoid. But yeah, building's good. It's a good action verb. Have a good night.
Oh, I was taking that with me.